Some of my biggest records I've done have had cool music videos to them. I mean, Deep Down Low is probably the best example of that.
Yep.
Or like, shout out Ian Pons-Jewell, who directed that video. It's like 500 million plays on YouTube.
Yeah.
When I was, coming up too, there was artists like Missy Elliott was like probably the best example of like Busta Rhymes probably too. Always having really cool Beastie Boys.
Yeah, I love 50 Cent and Eminem music videos on all the tracks they did together.
I always loved the really weird, crazy music videos.
I think people are afraid to put in the effort towards something like that now because they're afraid it's just going to get lost in a sea of slop.
Come to terms with that when I plan on doing new creative that I think is cool. And sometimes we're like at the mercy of this overlord called the algorithm, and then doesn't get shown to the right audience, and then either you have to post about it a million times and scream from a mountaintop for people to hear you, or you just have to come to terms with the fact that like, if I'm gonna make something that I feel like is genuinely cool, I have to do it because I think it's cool. If you're really passionate about doing something and you really feel like it needs to see the light of day, like do it. And this is a lot of me talking to myself too, to be honest. It's a lot of my own inner dialogue to myself, but it's like, if you've found yourself in the position where you're successful enough to like have this platform and have a career doing that, you only get one of those. So you might as well do all the that you came here to do.
Ever wonder how top DJs actually built their careers?
I had to do 15 years of hard work to get any of the recognition that I wanted.
Where I saw a turning point in my career is when I became true to myself.
From marketing and mindset to networking and negotiation, I'm giving you the tools you need to build a lasting career in dance music.
Give them bits of you and your everyday life.
You have to change the way you view the word no. Like me, I'm encouraged by it.
Join me, Olivia Mancuso, and industry leaders as we reveal what it really takes to turn your passion into profit. This is Elevated Frequencies.
You have this really unique background of working in hip hop before you got into dance music, right? Mm-hmm. And I just want to know about that. Like, how did that start?
I mean, it just started, I think that like probably the first people that actually made me understand who and what a producer is were like Timberland, Dr. Dre, the Neptunes, Pharrell, and Chad Hugo. And then at the same time, I started messing around with production software and just like even just really basic software where I didn't know how to play a piano at first. So I started on this really basic software called Cool Edit Pro. Probably nobody's ever heard of that, but if you have it now, it's this other software. I think Adobe bought it, but it was like the most basic stuff. So I would just sample, and the cool thing about me sampling was it really gave me a wide range of musical knowledge about like old Italian cinema scores or like 80s music or like 70s soul music. I would look up who different artists sampled, and then I'd be like, okay, cool. I'm gonna download like all of like the Temptations catalog, or like allegedly download and legally.
Of course.
Yeah, I was digging in the crates, and then I'm like, all right, cool. Like, it really gave me a great knowledge for all that. And then I was just making rap beats. I finally got my first placement just from sending beats out on the internet through TI. And at the same time, I started to mess with dance music. I walked by my brother's room and he was playing Justice. He was playing Waters of Nazareth. And I was like, what's that record? That's crazy. And then it all just coincided together at the same time, really. But and I still have a producer side of my career and I still have an artist side of my career, which I never envisioned ever being the artist myself. I just always was like, back in those days, I was like, if I get to produce a beat on like 50 Cent's album or something, I'm like, I made it. And but then I don't know, things have evolved and in a cool way. I think the coolest thing is I've gotten to travel, which is, I never envisioned traveling as much as I have. So, yeah.
The difference is when you're making rap beats, right? You're not the star. You are helping someone else's vision come to life. Was it talk to me about the transition to being like Valentino Khan, the artist, where now you're also the face of your music? Was that weird for you?
No, it wasn't. Just because I've always been pretty comfortable, I think, to be in front of a camera and in social situations and stuff. It's just who I always was. I think musically the challenge was when you're producing for another artist, you have to leave room for their vocals a lot of times. But being your own artist is very liberating because you just get to make whatever you want whenever you want, essentially, within some boundaries, I guess. But I enjoy both processes equally too, because sometimes I think at the end of the day, like I try to, and this goes for if I'm working with someone in the studio too, I try to think about what's best for this record, and a lot of times that's letting the vocal shine. The vocal could be the strongest part of the record. Honestly, these days, I find that to be increasingly the case, where it's like the vocal is the strongest part of the record, and you're like, cool, let's roll with that. Like let's build around that. Let's let that be the centerpiece, the focal point.
Do you think that has to do with the TikTokification?
I think it's only magnified that. I think I don't know even if you listen to like rap beats of like the last let's call it 10 years, I think you'll increasingly notice that like it all sounds a lot simpler, almost a lot more like low pass, where you're like almost it sounds like it's like in the shower from the room next door. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know, things come in waves. It's a sign of the times, but like I think that like I don't know, it just feels like, and I've seen it with my own records too. Just like a lot of times it's like people want to connect with like that human energy on the record, and if you don't have a great vocal on the record, 9 times out of 10 you might not have a great record.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I want to get into that more, but to put a point on like your background in hip hop, are there skills that you've taken from producing hip hop beats into dance music that like maybe producers who are starting off just fresh in dance music from the jump, like that they don't have, that's like your secret weapon?
I would say, well, first of all, I think just growing up with always listening to like a wide variety of music, I think just gave me a great perspective on music. Like just especially growing up in LA, I think you're exposed to just great culture and a lot of different cultures, different music. So I think that helped me. But I think coming from, hip hop background is just like, I think vocally, I think a lot of those records were a huge influence into like, I've done a lot of the vocals on my own records. Like I wouldn't consider myself a rapper or anything like that, nor do I aspire to be. But I think you definitely, if you go through like my catalog, you'd probably hear a little bit of that like incorporated into the records. And I think again, what I just said a couple minutes ago is just like the simplification. Like I always feel like if I had 2 different ideas, and idea A is a little more complex than idea B, I'm going to go with idea B because it's a little more direct. It's a little more simple. It's a little more like it's getting to the point of what you're trying to deliver on the song. So I think from that perspective, probably a lot of that was influenced by like growing up, making rap beats and just listening to the music and consuming it at a high level.
I've heard that from other artists on this show, that the success of the idea is the success of the song is in the idea. And people who overly tweak, overly mess with things, you're typically getting away. You're wasting your time. You're getting away from what the fans are going to actually appreciate and want. So you're saying that holds true across genres?
I believe so. I mean, there's also like extremely complex pieces of music that are great too. But I just feel like if you can simplify the idea, you're getting directly to the point of what you're trying to deliver. And at the end of the day, like, I mean, there's certain songs that I've made that are, have a greater degree of musical complexity to it, where I'm really like playing the piano and like, doing something really interesting melodically with it. But I think at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself like what the identity of the record is that you're trying to make. And once you understand that, then it's really just kind of a thought process of what's the most like direct way I can get to making that point and get to like achieving that identity for the record.
Okay.
And like I've personally found that like whether it's just on a level of success or whether it's on a level of like this just sounds better, which I usually just try to abide by that because who knows at the end of the day. I find that like going for that simple, most streamlined idea is always the way to go.
So Deep Down Low is like 10.
Best example of that, actually.
Yeah. That's what I had in the back of my mind while we're talking.
I knew it would come up at some point.
Well, yeah, and it just turned 10 last year.
True.
So that's a big deal. So I asked you a little bit earlier about like the, TikTokification of things. I feel like the trend cycle, me personally, I feel like the trend cycles of music are just moving so fast, and we are getting over, like the hype over a record is just, the window is getting shorter and shorter, but Deep Down Low is still played. It's a classic at this point. I think 10 years you can officially call it a classic.
I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, gets stuck in my head every time I hear it.
That's good.
It's one of my workout playlist staples.
Yeah,
always has been.
I think I've randomly, and I never intended to do so, but now that I like listen back to like everything that I've made and been making, like I randomly make like stuff that gets like playlisted and workout playlists and like good workout music and stuff. Like, well, I never was like thinking of that like consciously when I was making any of these records, but like, yeah, I get it. Yeah,
it's infiltrated. The Pilates girls put it on their playlist. Like in my solid core class, it's hit that a couple times.
I've seen it in spin classes too, where there's like, it's kind of cool. Yeah,
it's very cool. Yeah. You're infiltrating, like it infiltrates people who might not like have heard it otherwise.
Yeah, I think that like sometimes I get so consumed by, I'm just like so like overwhelmed by like constantly being around music and doing music as a career that I like forget like real life, like real world examples of people listening to music, like when people like are even listening to music in the car or like in the kitchen or working out and stuff like that. So it's something I like don't even think about as much anymore, which maybe like 30 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever, I'd probably think about it a little more.
Yeah. So do you think that like the culture behind music now is not allowing tracks the time to breathe and to have as significant of an impact as when you put out Deep Down Low?
So right now, I think that like we've never been so oversaturated with music and content. Let's just use a blanket term for it all, content. We've never been like this oversaturated with it. At the same time, like there's a pro and con to it, right? Because it's like there's that, which I think you could maybe argue is a bad thing because it's so, I can't keep up with every new artist or every new track that comes out. I just simply can't. Like I try my best, and I think I'm not the only one. Even as a fan or a consumer, like you can't keep up with that. But I think that like the positive side of that is like this is all, a product of just like the internet removing a barrier of access to like being able to put your music out there. And like there's kids that are like blowing up overnight that are just hanging out in their bedroom and just put out their music. Whereas like, I don't know, if you go back to like, decades ago, like you were very reliant on like knowing somebody that knew somebody maybe, and then reliance on like, oh, I hope this person on the radio plays my record.
Yeah.
And then there's no social media back then. So the great thing now is you can actually somewhat retain a fan base and a community. Whereas back then, I think like there was a lot of one-hit wonders that like they just blew up, and then whether they mismanaged or they didn't capitalize on the momentum that they had, like you didn't really hear from them after that. But now you can actually build your own community, your own fan base, actually talk to them, connect with them. Whereas back then, you have your own platform now. Like back then, like, I don't know, you had to rely on doing an interview. Maybe not like this.
No, like radio interviews.
So this is like, it's like new form of media too, where it's like, I think you get to see people's personalities. You get to get a sense for the human being if you're on a podcast.
Yeah.
Versus if like, hey, we're on the red carpet at the Video Music Awards at
Right.
MTV. Like, I don't know. It's
Right.
going to be some superficial and you're not going to really, but I think people can connect with their favorite artist on a deeper level. So
No, I'm in agreement. I mean, I think I see the positive in all of it as well. I think
I don't think I did really answer your question though, because like
I think like what I'm asking, it's more geared towards fan behavior. And I think like now that I'm in my mid 30s, I'm like, oh, these kids, whatever. But like I feel like everyone, and this is not just music. This is why fast fashion is a problem. This is why people just consume and move on to the next thing. There's this culture of like, this is the newest song. Oh, you haven't heard this? This is the newest song. And if you don't know it, like you're lame or whatever. And I've been thinking about this a lot because I just went on like a 10-hour road trip and people have been asking me forever to put like my Instagram community, put together like a playlist of your favorite tracks. And I've always felt the pressure. I'm like, I don't want them to think I don't know the latest music or whatever. And so I titled like the playlist my never skips, and they're old. Like they go, all the way back to like, 89 to now, but they're my never skips. I just feel like the way we're consuming content, music, whatever now is just so fast. It's hard as a creator. Like how do you get in the mindset of building something that lasts versus building something for the moment?
I mean, that's like the $1 million question always. I just try to go with my gut when I'm doing that. As far as putting people up on cool stuff, I think that's actually always existed. You're right about all that, but I think that's always existed. I just think that it's more in our face now because you're constantly reading everybody's thoughts on the internet. Everybody, like, there's just this increasing level of connectivity where like it's almost like people's opinions and thoughts are like directly being like streamed to your brain.
Yeah.
Whereas like, I don't know, in the 90s, you'd have to like, you talk to a group of people and they would try to put you up on like, whatever the newest cool shoes were, like newest music was. And you'd exchange ideas that way. But like now you're just, it's I don't know, it's overwhelming. We'll look back at it in 20 years and probably be like, oh, it was psychologically damaging to people in certain aspects,
We were never meant to know everybody's opinions.
This is
all the news happening all over all at once.
So I think that like the internet also is a lot of times it's like Yelp reviews, and I think people are rewarded for giving hot takes.
Yeah. I fall in that trap. My most viral content is the ones where I'm like pushing the limit of what.
We need to do something to rage bait people on this podcast then.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave that to you. You're the creative genius.
Pineapple and pizza. I don't know.
Chicago versus New York pizza.
You're not supposed to put ketchup on hot dogs here, right?
Nope.
Yeah. I never put ketchup on my hot dogs, so.
I don't eat hot dogs. I don't know if I've ever had a hot dog.
You've had a hot dog at some point.
No.
Okay.
My mom was like a granola mom, like a crunchy granola mom. So, yeah.
Who doesn't love granola?
You don't eat hot dogs still, do you?
First of all, the way you phrase that sounds like you're judging me.
I'm just concerned for your health. Cased meat is
it sounds like you think I'm eating hot dogs on a daily basis.
Are you?
No.
Okay.
I'll eat it if I go to a Dodger game.
Fair enough.
But I don't think. Yeah, I think other than going to a baseball game, I don't think I ever eat a hot dog.
Like, what
really.
context would you eat hot dogs in besides a baseball game? You might have a problem.
There's not many. I feel like hot dog stands are maybe out here they're going strong. I feel like maybe in LA they're a little bit of a dying breed.
No, yeah, that's not.
There's still some good spots, but yeah.
No, that would not be like.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever like. It's kind of some crazy work to be like. You just wake up and be like, "Oh, I'm craving I don't know,
a hot dog."
Yeah.
Yeah, shrimp cocktail.
I mean, yeah.
At least it's.
Who am I to judge?
Kind of healthy.
Yeah, it's shrimp, and I don't even know what's in cocktail sauce. Is it like tomato based or something.
Something like that.
It's very acidic.
Yeah, it skeeves me a little bit. Shrimp does sometimes. I like fish, but shrimps.
But what is with the head on? You get
and like the texture is just like you're eating like membrane.
These things.
Yeah.
I don't want to call them tentacles, but
I love octopus. Like, I would eat octopus for breakfast. No lie.
Yeah.
I'm going to Turkey this year finally, and I'm just gonna eat so much octopus.
You're gonna be on that Mediterranean diet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feeling like $1 million. Yeah. Anyway, back to what we were talking about.
Right.
The content. This is a good segue into content. Rage baiting people, doing controversial things. Most people who have had just the achievements that you've had at your level in the music industry don't feel the need to be putting out content the way that you do. Because like Dylan Francis is the only other guy I could think of that like does it like.
I would actually beg to differ in a lot of ways. I mean,
skits, you're doing unique, like
I think I do a little bit of it.
Quantity is one thing.
Yeah.
Like you see Cascade doing vlogs, Green Velvet does vlogs, but you are putting like skits. Is that just because you've always been a funny person and this is just another outlet for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the only reason I do it in the way I do it. You know, I like 9 times out of 10, I'm like writing my own skits. I'm directing them, I'm editing them, you know? So it's like.
I saw the one where you were a police officer.
Oh, yeah.
That was amazing.
I can't even take credit for that idea. I shout out Killinois and Bro Safari for that. They wanted me to pull up to their party and break it up as a fake cop. So, but I really leaned into it. I really wanted to like piss people off.
Yeah.
And I hoped people didn't recognize me when I was doing it. Eventually they did, but yeah.
That's amazing.
But yeah, that was a good time. I never gotten to do that. Who knows if I'll ever get to ruin someone's party.
This is just like an outlet for you.
I try to embrace it, and it's just a weird job to have, and I try to just like have as much fun as I possibly can. But I do think also like, I don't know. I feel like every industry person is telling the artist like, make more content, and it's not contributing. It's not helping to like this issue that we have of just like oversaturation, overabundance of just content. Like we don't need more content. Like I would love to live in a world where it like quality over quantity is rewarded. And I feel like that was like, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, it was a little bit more like that. But
like when music videos were still a thing.
Yeah. I think some of my biggest records, and I'm even planning on doing some more in the near future. Some of my biggest records I've done have had cool music videos to them. I mean, Deep Down Low is probably the best example of that.
Yep.
Or like, shout out Ian Pons Jewel, who directed that video, has like, you know, it's like 500 million plays on YouTube.
Yeah.
But it's just like, when I was, you know, coming up too, there was artists like Missy Elliott was like probably the best example of like, Busta Rhymes probably too. Always having really cool Beastie Boys.
Yeah, I love 50 Cent and Eminem music videos on all the tracks they did together.
I always loved the really weird, crazy music videos. I mean, some of those like Spike Jonze directed videos where there's a song by The Far Side where I think it's Drop by The Far Side, and Spike Jonze directed the video, and he shot the whole song in reverse and hired like a linguistics coach to teach them how to rap the song in reverse. And then they did it, and it like, if you watch the video, it looks like seamless, and everything's moving in reverse because they just reversed it, and it's the actual song again.
That's sick.
Yeah. So it's like,
I think people are afraid to put in the effort towards something like that now because they're afraid it's just going to get lost in a sea of slop, which is really a bummer.
And like, I've had to come to terms with that when I plan on doing new creative that I think is cool. And like, yeah, like sometimes we're like at the mercy of this overlord called the algorithm, and then doesn't get shown to the right audience, and then either you have to post about it 1 million times and scream from a mountaintop for people to hear you, or you just have to come to terms with the fact that like, if I'm going to make something that I feel like is genuinely cool, I have to do it because I think it's cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a big one. And then just be okay with whatever the outcome is. Like release yourself from the reception. And that's how you know you're a true artist.
At the same time, all that is an investment of your time and money. So you do have to be wise about how you put forth that energy. Like, you have to always, it's always like a weighing out process in your head of like, is this worth it? But at the end of the day, I think you should always try to, if you're really passionate about doing something and you really feel like it needs to see the light of day, like do it. Because also like if you're in the position, and this is a lot of me talking to myself too, to be honest, it's a lot of my own inner dialogue to myself, but it's like if you've found yourself in the position where you're successful enough to like have this platform and have a career at doing that, you only get one of those. So you might as well do all the that you came here to do and that you're passionate about. So I would say music videos is one of those things. I hope it doesn't become, as we continue to consume more short form content, I hope it doesn't become a dying art, which I don't think it will.
No, I think there's going to be a resurgence like everything else. People think they discover something new and it's really something that's been around forever. I, for one, want to see the resurgence of physical magazines. My friends and I tried to go to this bookstore out in like the outskirts of the city because we heard they had great magazines. And then half of them ended up being like just really fucking weird. Like half of them were like gun magazines. And then there was like porn magazines and like bird watching. I'm like, okay, this was a bust. But I still have not found a place that has like good quality.
I'll tell you.
Tell me.
Doctor's office.
Yeah,
but
the
doctor's office.
Like, isn't that mostly pop culture magazines? Which are still valid. Those were fun.
It's good reading.
I loved getting.
You ever read People magazine?
Yeah, back in the day. I liked Us better. It was a little more salacious.
I was going to go with, is it US Weekly or Us Weekly?
I think it's Us Weekly. And then there was another one I can't remember that was like the most like, scandalous,
like
whatever. Star, yeah.
All the tabloid
magazines, we used to get People and Us.
Is that a UK thing, The Sun?
Yeah, they're always lying too.
Yeah.
And then I remember my dad was really mad that my mom let me read those magazines. So he got me a subscription to like, they were called like Zoo magazines or something. It was almost like a Nat Geo for kids, but like every month you got like a new zoo animal magazine. He wanted it to be balanced.
It's good. Yeah. I think you need to, learn about Britney Spears' latest crash out and also know what like the Serengeti looks like.
Absolutely.
You need a balanced
That's true today.
education, yeah.
Like when I feel like I've fed my brain with too much short form content, like I love reading anyway, but I read more. I'm like, you need to like zero out the damage you just did.
Yeah. I've definitely reached a point where like, I don't know, I try to be as educated and informed as I am on everything, but it's too much at a certain point. It's like, I think that's why people have like like gravitated so much to all the brain rot stuff. It's just because they're like, I just want to watch something that's utterly like meaningless at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And random.
100%.
But it scratches this itch in my brain of just like I need to be stimulated and laugh and find this dumb and funny.
Yeah, we were not
I don't have to think hard.
We were not supposed to know all the terrible like micro events, every bad thing. That's a big reason why I left the news industry too, because it was horrible news every single day. And if we were reporting on something locally that was horrible, we were localizing a national story. So taking something bad that happened somewhere else and finding a local angle. And I'm like, cool, I can't do this anymore.
I think also like just like once the agenda increasingly to a obvious extent became to like shock and scare and draw a reaction from the viewer and people started to see through that, then it's like, what are we watching anymore? And like it's everything you watch has some sort of agenda or spin or slant to it or whatever. So you're just like at the end of the day, it's like
it's bipartisan. They all do it. They all take the most. Yeah. And
it's like, what am I watching anymore?
Yeah.
Like, I'm watching theater.
And it was happening at a local level. Like one story, like the story that made me leave the news, if you care, I'll tell you.
Yeah, tell me.
A lightning strike hit like this old man's house and it burned it down and he lost all his medications and like blah, blah, blah. He was in a walker and I happened to be the only one on the scene covering that story. I'm like, we really need to get this story out because this man is left with nothing. And they let me ride with the story, gets to the 10 o'clock news. It's like 9:40. I hear on the police scanner that there was a rollover crash and I'm like listening. Okay, the guy got out. He's fine. He's not hurt. Oh, it's on a road that like it's not a high trafficked road. Naples, Florida anyway is not busy at 10 o'clock at night. It was nothing. Guy's safe. It's not blocking traffic, whatever. 9:50, I get a call from my producer flipping the out. He's like, why the aren't you at that rollover crash? That's fresh news. Like that's the story, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, he wasn't hurt. Like there's no story here. He's like, but that's like the newer thing. So you need to leave this story. Like I had to abandon that story about this poor old man who lost his house and all his belongings and go cover this stupid crash.
Yeah.
And I was done. Like I got home that night and I'm like, I'm leaving this industry. Like this was the final straw.
I also don't even agree with that producer. Like I don't like.
No.
I know he was just probably going off of what
the
current
higher
trends were,
Yep.
like the higher, whatever is going to generate the most ad revenue. And
Yep. It was so
ratings, but,
stupid.
like,
I was standing on a road in front of
I'd rather hear about. I mean, I'm sad for the old man, but I'd rather hear about.
Well, the
that.
whole point was drive donations to him.
Yeah.
You know, get his information out there. Which I
like-
interviewed him.
Like not many people get their house struck by lightning. It's kind of rare.
Right.
Yeah.
So the producer was younger than me too, and he felt the pressure from, whatever. So I was just like, this is how the industry is going. I'm jumping ship. I did in 2018. And now all these other reporters like that I used to work with who look down on me for leaving are like asking me how they get out. I'm like, you're in too deep now.
Yeah.
It's
I don't blame you.
But yeah, I just think that, people are becoming more aware of what the short form stuff is doing to our brains. And I think there's a big push, like with these no phones policies at shows and stuff, to kind of return to how things used to be. I mean, I don't know if we can put the toothpaste back in the tube, but we can try.
I think the no phone stuff is so like people can't like video comedians and take that they say out of context and then try to cancel them. I think that's where that started from. I don't know if it's like if that's broadened from that.
And I get it. I mean, it's nice to have moments from shows, I think. Like, I don't take out my phone for an entire whatever, but it's nice to have a memory. Where do you fall on that spectrum?
I try to do both because I think people will tell you to live in the moment, and I think that's great advice that you should. But I think at the same time, there's just so much stuff that I've done in my life that, like, I think that during the pandemic, I definitely realized that I was just sitting bored at home, especially in LA. Everything was locked down and just lame, and you're bored as hell. And I was just scrolling through my camera roll, and there was definitely, I have a pretty good memory, but there was definitely like moments where I was like, oh man, I forgot I was in Thailand in that day and I did this and then I ate this. And so I try to like, I don't know, it's like have this rolling instant replay of my life that I can access at any time. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I try to not be consumed. I try to enjoy both.
Yeah.
It's a balancing act, obviously. But,
100%.
I don't know. I enjoy it personally. I love the fact that like you're able to go back and rewatch an interesting moment in your life, or maybe sometimes a meaningful moment in your life, So
I do. I agree with that. I wanted to ask you too about your work with the WWE.
Yeah.
Because that's like next level. And I think that's the majority of my audience is artists, and showing that were you the first DJ that has ever worked with the WWE? That's crazy. To just show what's possible for them.
Run DMC had performed.
Okay. This is like a little different.
But like in terms of just being like an act that was just a DJ. Yeah.
How were you received?
I think that like wrestling fans are, and I'm one of wrestling fans. So I'm part of that. I'm not putting myself outside of that group. It's the most interesting, craziest fan base. And I think as long as you like know your and they don't think that like you're coming into their world to, I don't know, self-promote or to do something that's outside of the spectrum of the world of wrestling. I think it'll be received well. I think as long as you know your, which like I grew up watching pro wrestling, like especially during the Attitude Era of like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and
so you got to show that it's like one of us.
Yeah, like it's as long as that's exactly. And I think that like as long as they feel that, and like during my sets, I'm like mashing up old theme walkout songs and stuff. So I think it's like as long as you're doing that, I think they'll receive you well. I think you'll always at the beginning of going into any new world, you'll get the who the is this guy? But I'm like, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
But I also don't care if you don't know who I am. Like, I'm here to enjoy myself.
You've done it a couple times now, though, right?
Done multiple WrestleManias. Did it in LA, did it in Vegas, did it in Dallas. It's been fun every time. I've gotten to know some of like, you know, the actual pro wrestlers there, and just like there's a lot of parallels between the constant travel, and you know, being in front of crowds and stuff like that. But I think the major difference that I tell them is I don't get body slammed every night. Like I can't imagine doing, you know, being on that kind of a schedule. They don't have an off season. It's like the one show that the show never ends.
I never thought about that. So they're traveling to different states like every weekend.
Constantly every weekend. There's also live events that are not televised that they'll often do too, that like unless you know the actual schedule, you won't even know about, you know.
They are incredible athletes.
Oh, incredible. I mean, especially now, I mean, you look back at like in the 80s, you had guys that were more on the bodybuilder side, you know. If you look at like guys like Hulk Hogan or like Lex Luger or like Randy Savage. He's
not like nimble.
I mean, they had some athleticism to them, but it wasn't like they were. Now you have guys in the WWE that are just they're actually recruiting from college, like high level athletes that like just are doing the craziest in there. Like there's this new kid, his name is Javon Evans, and he's just he's got the craziest ups. He just is incredibly athletic. And I think that like, over like sort of the 90s, 2000s, it just increasingly shifted to this more athletic side of things. And like, it's made the in-ring component of it, I think a lot more entertaining to watch.
Yeah. I enjoy it when I catch it.
Did you ever watch when you were a kid?
A little bit. I mean, my mom wasn't about that either, but my cousins would put it on and we would like sneak a peek.
Did you have a favorite?
No, but when that show called Totally Divas came out, I loved the Bella Twins, obviously.
Bella Twins fan, yeah.
Yeah, and then all of them. They're all so gorgeous and amazing. I can't remember the other ones' names. The Bella Twins were the ones that I loved, though.
I'm trying to think. I never really watched Total Divas because I don't really watch like reality television. But I think like Natalia might have been on that show.
That's the one with the red hair.
Becky Lynch wasn't on that show. No, who was?
She was like, I don't know. She had long red hair.
Long red hair.
She was so beautiful.
Oh, Eva Marie.
Yes.
Yeah,
she was my favorite. Yeah. She was my favorite. I don't know about her wrestling skills.
She's not in
not anymore.
In WWE anymore.
Okay.
No. But yeah, she was on that show.
Yeah, she was on that show.
Yeah. That was. I think that like that was one of the shows that like helped it become a little more mainstream in that era. Yeah. Because it was on like E! Channel, I think.
It was exactly.
Like that. Yeah.
That's interesting because I feel like there's parallels with dance music too, of like how dance music kind of gets introduced to the mainstream, right? And then it's like, oh, what's this? Like it's kind of like a
it was like Skrillex on Katie Couric.
He was on Katie Couric?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
You know, look it up.
I have to look that up.
That was like I think that was the first time I was like, oh wow. Because there was actually, you probably remember this, there was actually this question, I think, in like around that time, this is like, I don't know, 2013, 14, 15, something like that, where it's like, is EDM just a trend? Is the bubble going to burst?
Yeah.
And then like, there is a real debate. And like now clearly it's like here to stay. It's like house music's been here forever. It's just like it's like dance music is just now really ingratiated itself into American culture. Now where you get kids that were like, I grew up listening to dance music, which is like, this is like, to me, it's like the first generation where there's like a large amount of kids that were like, yeah, this is like, I grew up listening to like Jack U and
it was a lot more rare.
Whoever, yeah,
a lot more rare. I am someone who started listening to dance music at like 13 years old. There was a 13, 14, whatever my freshman year of, well, that's not true because I found Hardstyle in 8th grade, which is like insane. I don't know.
That's great. I hope more 8th graders listen to Hardstyle.
It was because I liked metal, so it was a very natural transition.
I love that because I feel like we're missing that aggressiveness. That I love that era of like toxic masculinity rock. It's not even a real word. Let's be honest. It's just a made up word. But like, I think that like, I don't know. That's why I love that there's kind of this slow resurgence, I think, of like rock and bands. I think if you look at like Turnstile is a good example of like, there's acts that I think that are like, and even, I guess like hardstyle music and even dubstep for an example. Like, it's all like, I don't know. I think that people, I don't listen to music too much in this aspect, in this way, but like, I think it's healthy for you to be able to like use music as this outlet, this vehicle for you to like release whatever pent up 100%. Shit you got going on inside of you yourself.
It's so helpful sometimes because I really it's
actually healthy, I think.
100%.
Yeah.
I really like groovy, soulful house music, but that doesn't cut it when I'm in a mood, and I want to just like feel what I'm feeling. And you're talking about Skrillex. I mean, I saw Skrillex perform with Korn, which was one of the coolest things. I love Korn. Korn's one of my favorite bands. Well, I've seen Korn multiple times.
I saw a Korn concert in Vegas one time, and it was sick. Like John Davis was like playing the bagpipe and all that. But like, I think I had to leave early, and I think they saved like all their hits, like "Freak on a Leash" to like the end. So I like
they always do that. So you saw him recently, then?
No, this is so long ago. Oh. This is like at least like 10 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, I saw him a bunch in college, and I was into Marilyn Manson before we like knew that he was like whatever.
Marilyn Manson actually had the theme song for WWE SmackDown for a while, actually.
Which one was it?
Beautiful People.
Oh, that was
it was the theme song for SmackDown.
The great song.
Great song, yeah.
I loved Rob Zombie back then. I mean, I still do.
You watched any of his? I haven't.
No, I'm too scared.
Movies?
I'm too scared. I'm afraid of
You're
everything.
Not a horror movie person, yeah.
No, nope.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it was a great era. I mean, I'm just like, I always loved listening to Limp Bizkit, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. There's even just like, I don't know. Like, I growing up, like, and even just looking at past generations of just like people who grew up listening to like Metallica and stuff like that. It's just like, I think like there's different situations in your life that you're like, I want to listen to this kind of music, or this seems fit for this moment in my life, or not even just necessarily the moment, just like where my headspace is at. And like, I think that like, yes, the chilled out style music is cool if you want to chill out and like listen to some cool too. But I think that like, it's important to have that wide spectrum and have like this aggressive music that people listen to too.
If you're a true music lover, you're gonna love so many other genres.
And I think if you actually talk to most music fans these days, like you ask them like, what do you listen to? Especially now that we have access to all this stuff, and like, whereas again back in the day you had to like change channels on a radio to listen to something else, or physically go to a record store or a CD store. You know what I mean? I think you ask the average music fan nowadays, like, what do you consume? What do you listen to? Most people will be like, I don't know, listen to a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And
I think that's healthy and it's cool. And like I said, even my musical upbringing was like, I got to like listen to all sorts of kinds of music, and I'm really thankful for that. And I think that again, like, it's important to have that wide spectrum, or at least have it available. If it's not your thing, cool. Like, some people don't listen to certain genres of music, but like, at least to have that available, I think it's important that we like champion and promote all that kind of music, you know?
Agree. It's not fun to be a purist. Like just to like one thing.
No.
Anybody who I've met who's like so specific, I'm like, you're not fun to talk to because you're like, your brain is not even open to.
It's like, I don't know. I think that like the music you listen to shouldn't be your personality or your entire identity.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's more to people than that. And like you who's watching at home, there's more to you than that, you know? And I think people make friends and connect with people a lot through music. I think it's done more to solve a lot of social issues in our world than a lot of other things. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't try to at least open your mind and listen to everything, you know?
Full agreement. So you've had 25 plus years of making this a very illustrious career. Is there anything you're still chasing?
You're always chasing something. I don't know. You're always trying to challenge yourself and do something next level. And I don't know. I just want to like make stuff that I'm passionate about and try to show all sides of myself and everything I'm capable of fully. You know, whether that's directing things or making music that I think pushes boundaries or all that stuff. I think like you're always chasing something new and you're always trying to challenge yourself with new things. So that's really what I'm like chasing at the end of the day, honestly. Like, yeah, I don't even know what I'm chasing anymore, to be honest. Like, I don't know what's going to work. I don't know what's not going to work. All I know is I'm going to try to do some cool shit and see what happens really at the end of the day. Because I think if everybody's going to tell you they have like a magic formula for what works, and I don't think anybody knows the end of the day. So, and the thing is, if you knew this week, it's going to change the next week. So you got to always adapt. I think that like, however talented you might think I am, whether that's a lot or a little, I think that like at the end of the day, my biggest skill of why I'm still around and have a career is just my ability to adapt and just straight up figure out. Like, that's probably the thing that's carried me the furthest. It's figuring it out and not giving up. Because I think that like persistence is like 98% of this. It's
100%.
just like, and you will have those moments where you're like, this what am I doing anymore? Like, why am I here? But I think, you know, whether that's a lot or a little, or if it's for a period of time, or if it's along the way you feel those things, I think like not giving up is a huge part of it. Just don't
100%.
Don't be weak and don't give up. Like, that's it.
And the adaptability, if you don't bend, you break.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you for braving the snow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can't tell this, but it is, it's like 5 degrees outside. It's We're in a blizzard. Can you call this a blizzard?
Yeah.
It's a severe snowstorm here in
Your
Chicago.
pants, like, the snow came up to, like,
I mean, what you can't see is
mid-shin.
I'm wearing 2 layers of pants because
Smart. You came prepared.
I don't even know what I'm doing because I'm from LA. We don't get weather like this, but I think this is probably I've been to Chicago a million times. This is probably the coldest I've ever experienced in Chicago. Yeah, I just adapted on the fly and just layered.
That's a perfect example. There you go. Well, thank you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.